parakeets. I had fish tanks at various points, and I had these turtles, dime store turtles we called them. They were little turtles, but for whatever reason, the turtles never lasted long. You know, I would have 5 or 6 of them, and then one of them would just be dead. And since I kept them in the castle, it just one thing led to another, and I thought, well, they must be murdering each other, competing for the turtle throne.
There's been too much amusement here today. A royal wedding is not an amusement. A royal wedding is history. Time has come for all of us to contemplate our history. My lords, my ladies, I give you King Joffrey, Renly, Stannis, Robb Stark, Balon Greyjoy, the War of the Five Kings!
You're a traitor!
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome indeed for Darren and Kerry to join with them in their Game of Thrones wedding.
It's been way too long since she's shown her tits. Like,
we got them every episode in the first season.
I think her tits are really saggy.
I think they're decent.
they're decent. What are you doing, man?
Watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. No, we're watching Game of Thrones.
Hey! You back the remote!
Come and claim it. Winter has come.
Release the dragons! Go, dragon! Go! Me, go! Khaleesi!
Tolkien imitators who came after him, a lot of them created a sort of Disneyland Middle Ages. You know, sort of Middle Ages like you might see at a Renaissance fair, but you don't have the dysentery or the torture or the leprosy or the innate sexism or classism or racism that was so built into so much of that world for so many centuries. You really have to take, you know, I like the knights in the shining armor and the heraldry and the pageantry as much as anyone, but you also have to include the fleas. I was always a kid with my nose in a book. I think that was my middle name, not the RR. George Nose in His Book Martin. We had very little money. We lived in the projects. We never went anywhere. Our family didn't even own a car. I lived on First Street. I went to school on Fifth Street. That was my world, 5 blocks. And through books and comic books, I could go to, you know, Metropolis and Gotham City. I could go to Mars. At some point, I guess around junior high school, I finally kind of took stock of myself and said, realistically, I'm probably not going to be the guy who goes to the moon, but maybe I can be the guy who writes about people who goes to the moon, because I'm pretty good at making up stories. It was actually one of the first shows that I remember that I became conscious that people wrote these television shows, because I started noticing the bylines, the writer's credits on the show. I mean, the vast majority of the original Twilight Zone was written by 3 people. And then later, of course, the irony was in the mid-'80s, when I first got involved in television, it was on the revived Twilight Zone that I got my first Hollywood experience.
Je veux qu'il approche. Je veux qu'il se montre.
Eh bien, parlez. Dites ce que vous savez. Notre bien-aimé roi est là pour rendre sa justice.
I'm in favor of showing violence. Medieval battles were the most hideous thing you could ever want to see here. There's all descriptions in the literature of survivors of lakes of blood and streams of blood. That's not just hyperbole. The human body contains a lot of blood, and when you're fighting with swords and axes and you're hacking off limbs and splitting people's heads in half, it's grisly. I need 75 fonts for? I just want words that I can read, you know, in a nice, clear, readable font. I don't want help. I don't want it correcting my spelling. I'll correct my own spelling. I know how to spell. I learned it in grade school.